All right, everybody, welcome back to the deep dives.
Yes, welcome back.
Today we are going deep, as always, into a really interesting article that I found really compelling about office space here in Indianapolis.
Yeah, this is a good one.
And it is an article by Cara Conde dated March 22nd, 2025.
Very recent.
Yes, very recent. So this is hot off the presses information about what's going on in the Indianapolis office market.
Absolutely. And I think what makes this deep dive particularly interesting is that it's not just about like, oh, here are some office spaces in Indianapolis.
Right.
It's really about like, if you're a business, how do you think about location?
Yeah.
Like, where do you fit in? What are the vibes?
Yeah, exactly.
What kind of business what are your needs? And how does that play into the specific location that you choose?
Yeah.
And Cara Conde does a really good job of breaking down 3 specific areas in the Indianapolis market: Carmel Fishers and downtown Indianapolis.
And she gives them great little monikers as well.
Yeah, she's got a real knack for that.
Yeah. The gilded realm of prestige, the electric frontier of tomorrow, the pulsating core of power.
I love it.
So good.
So we're going to dive deep into those 3 areas and really try to help you understand, like, if you were a business looking at Indy, where would you fit?
Right.
You know?
Exactly. So let's jump right in, starting with Carmel, this gilded realm of prestige.
Yeah, so right off the bat, you get this image of, like, Carmel being this high-end, affluent place.
Yes.
And Conde really emphasizes that in the article. She talks about how Carmel has very intentionally cultivated this image
Yes.
of affluence and a strong business environment.
Right.
And she really focuses on a specific area within Carmel called the Meridian Corridor,
Right.
which is kind of like the main artery, the
Yeah.
central nervous system of business in Carmel.
Yes. And she gives some great examples of the types of businesses you find there. Like,
Yeah.
C&O Financial Group, this large insurance holding company. So, big players.
3 players.
But then also more specialized firms like boutique accounting practices. Even some tech startups are starting to kind of gain a foothold in Carmel.
So it's a mix.
Yeah, it's a mix.
It's not a monoculture. It's not just like, finance bros. It's a little bit more diverse than that.
Right. And she backs this up with some figures.
Oh, yeah.
By late 2024, the population of Carmel had grown to 103,000,
Wow.
with a median household income exceeding $121,400.
That's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money, and that speaks to the spending power in the area.
Absolutely.
And the type of clientele businesses can expect to attract.
Yeah.
And then she even goes on to mention that Carmel High School ranks in the 98th percentile nationally.
Wow, that's a good school.
It is a very good school, and that, speaks to the future workforce, the talent pool.
Absolutely. Yeah, if you're looking at a long-term investment in a location,
Right.
having access to a highly educated workforce is super important.
Absolutely. And so, Carmel, it really does live up to that gilded realm of prestige moniker.
Yeah, and then she goes on to break down, the pros and cons for businesses.
Right, I agree.
And she really starts with the pros.
Right.
And the first one is this great phrase,
Yes.
architectural royalty,
I love that.
which I think just perfectly captures
Yes.
the vibe of the Meridian Corridor,
Yes. Like just the look of the buildings.
the aesthetic. Yeah.
Yes. The aesthetic is very intentional.
It's high end. It's meant to impress.
Exactly. And she gives a specific example.
Yeah.
One, Penmark.
Right.
250,000 square feet LED certified, completed in 2023. So very new construction.
Yeah.
And she mentions that the typical lease rates there are about $29 to $32 per square foot.
Yeah.
According to JLL's Q4 2024 data,
So you're paying a premium,
you are paying a premium.
but you're getting that look, that feel.
That LED certification, too, which is important for a lot of businesses.
Absolutely. Environmentally conscious sustainability.
Yeah.
It's becoming more and more important for companies to be able to say, like, hey, we're in a green building.
Right. Exactly.
So that's a big plus.
Yeah. And then she goes on to the next pro, which is talent goldmine.
Ah, yes.
And she notes that 62% of Carmel residents hold a bachelor's degree or higher,
Wow.
based on 2024 Census Bureau data.
So a highly educated workforce.
Very highly educated workforce.
Which, again, if you're a business that relies on that,
Right.
that's a huge plus.
Huge plus.
You're not having to import talent. You've got it right there.
Right.
Although it is worth noting, with a highly educated workforce often comes higher salary expectations.
That is a good point.
So that's something to keep in mind. It's not all just like roses and sunshine.
Right. It's a trade-off, right?
It's a trade-off.
You get the talent, but you might have to pay a little bit more for it.
Exactly.
Okay, and then the next pro she mentions is upscale ecosystem.
Ah, yes.
Which is really interesting because it's not just about the office space itself.
Right. It's about what's around it.
It's about what's around it. It's the restaurants, the shops.
The amenities.
The amenities, yes. And she gives some examples. Anthony's Chop House, where a dry-aged ribeye will set you back $48. Very fancy. Clay Terrace Shopping Center with over 70 stores.
Nice.
And then the Carmel Arts and Design District.
Oh, yeah.
Even mentioning specific places like Divvy and their truffle fries.
Just love it. So it's really painting this picture of like
lifestyle.
Lifestyle, exactly.
Yeah, like this is a place where you can work, but you can also play.
Absolutely, and attract clients.
Yes.
You know, wine and dine them.
Exactly.
Take them to the arts district.
Exactly.
It's all part of that package.
Yes. And then the final crow she mentions is connectivity.
Ah, yes, which is important.
Very important.
You know, you don't want to be out in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
Inaccessible.
Exactly.
So Carmel seems to have a good balance there.
Yeah.
Easy access to I-465.
Right, about 30 minutes to downtown Indianapolis.
Not bad.
And then within a reasonable 40-minute drive to the Indianapolis International Airport.
Okay, yeah.
Which, you know, it has 130 daily flights.
So you can get where you need to go.
You can get where you need to go.
If you're a business that travels,
Exactly.
that's a big plus.
It's a big plus.
All right, so we've got all these pros, but of course there are cons.
There are always cons.
There are always cons.
So what are some of the downsides to being in this gilded realm of prestige?
Well, the first one she mentions is the golden price tag.
Makes sense.
Which we kind of touched on with the lease rates, but she really breaks it down here.
Yeah.
The average office rent in Carmel in 2024 was almost $29 per square foot.
Yeah.
Which is 17% higher than the overall metro average.
Ooh.
Yeah, so you're definitely paying a premium to be in Carmel.
Right, and she even gives a cost breakdown for a 3,000 square foot space.
Yeah, she likes to do that.
She does. She likes to get specific.
She likes to get specific because, you know, it's one thing to say, oh, it's $29 a square foot.
Right.
But when you actually break it down and say, okay, for a 3,000 square foot space, that's $86,700 a year in rent.
Right.
Plus you've got utilities estimated at around $2,500 a month.
Yeah.
And maintenance another $1,200 a year.
That adds up.
It adds up.
It really does.
So you got to factor that into your budget.
Absolutely. And then beyond just the base rent, she brings up traffic beasts.
Ah, yes.
Because you know those beautiful roundabouts that make Carmel so aesthetically pleasing?
Right.
They don't always prevent congestion,
No.
especially during rush hour on major arteries like Keystone Parkway.
Yeah, and she mentions a 25-minute drive between 116th and 96th Street.
Yeah.
Which doesn't sound that far.
It doesn't sound that far.
But 25 minutes in rush hour traffic,
Yeah.
that can be a killer.
It can impact productivity, employee morale.
Absolutely, yeah. And then on top of that, you've got parking costs.
Right.
You know, she mentions $80 a month at the Meridian Village Garage.
Yeah.
According to the Carmel Parking Authority in 2024.
Which, you know, that adds up.
It does.
If you have a lot of employees
Yeah.
who are all paying for parking.
It's another expense.
It's another expense.
To factor in.
Exactly. And then the final drawback she mentions is the competitive Coliseum, which is really just a testament to Carmel's popularity.
Yeah, high demand, limited availability.
Yes, the vacancy rate was only 3.8% in Q4 2024.
Wow, that's low.
Very low, according to Colliers.
So you're going to be fighting for space.
You are going to be fighting for space.
And she gives an example of a space in Carmel City Center that got 11 offers in 48 hours.
Yeah.
So it's like a feeding frenzy.
It is. It's competitive.
It's competitive.
So given all of that, who does Cara Conde say is best suited for Carmel?
Yeah. So she specifically mentions law firms.
Okay.
Citing Fager Drinker as an example.
Okay.
Tech giants like Zotech Partners.
Okay.
And really any business that places a high value on that prestige.
That image.
That image, yeah, that upscale image.
She calls it Fortune 500 sheen.
I love that.
It's so good.
If you want that Fortune 500 sheen, Carmel is the place to be.
Hey, Carmel is the place to be.
But it's going to cost you.
It will cost you.
But, you know, you get what you pay for.
You do. You do. And then what I thought was really interesting is even though it is so competitive, she highlights her own expertise in the market.
Yeah, she's not shy about that.
No, she's not. She mentions securing a Midtown Carmel suite for a financial advisory firm.
Okay.
At $26.50 per square foot.
Okay.
Which is 8% below the asking price.
Nice.
And also getting them 3 months of free rent.
Wow.
So even in that tight market, she's able to find value for her clients.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Yeah, and she really emphasizes her knowledge of these off-market deals.
Yeah.
which apparently accounted for 22% of transactions in Carmel in 2024.
Wow.
According to her analytics.
So those are deals that are not publicly listed.
Exactly.
You need to know somebody.
You need to know somebody.
To get access to those.
And she's the somebody to know.
Sounds like it.
And then she also mentions that she's tracking upcoming developments like the proscenium.
Okay.
So she's really kind of looking ahead.
Yeah, she's on top of it.
She's on top of it.
She's not just reacting to the market, she's anticipating.
Exactly. And then finally for Carmel, she mentions a hidden gem.
Oh, I love these.
You know, me too.
Tell me about the hidden gem.
So this is the Sophia Square offices completed in December 2024.
Okay.
So these are newer boutique suites.
Okay.
Offering a slightly lower price point of $27 per square foot.
Okay.
And they start at 800 square feet.
So smaller spaces.
Smaller spaces. And they have some really appealing features like views of the Booth Tarkington Theater.
Right.
So, you know, a little bit of that cultural element.
Yeah.
And the fact that she has already reserved units there shows that she really believes in this as an emerging value in the market.
Yeah, she's putting her money where her mouth is.
Exactly.
That's a good sign.
All right, so that's Carmel, high prestige, high cost, high competition.
Buy everything.
High everything.
But a lot of talent, a lot of amenities.
Right, if that's what you're looking for.
If you've got deep pockets,
exactly,
Carmel might be the place for you.
Now let's shift gears and head over to Fishers.
Oh,
the electric frontier of tomorrow.
This sounds so cool.
It sounds completely different from Carmel.
Yeah, this is like the up-and-coming area.
Yeah, the young.
The
tech-focused area.
Yeah, and Conde really emphasizes that she talks about how rapidly it's growing.
Yeah.
The population boomed to 105,000 by late 2024.
Yeah.
A high annual growth rate of 3.6%.
That's significant growth.
Yeah. Things are happening in Fishers.
Things are happening, and she highlights the Nickel Plate District as kind of the heart of this electric frontier.
The Nickel Plate District, yeah. It's like where all the cool kids hang out.
It is. It is where all the cool kids hang out.
All the startups, the breweries.
Yeah, she mentions Launch Fishers.
Yeah.
This incubator for startups.
Yeah.
And then the really successful story of FormStack, which was sold for $150 million.
Nice.
So, you know, there are some big wins coming out of Fishers.
Yeah, and it's got that kind of entrepreneurial energy.
Yes.
You know, people are taking risks. They're trying new things.
Yeah, and she even gives you a sense of the atmosphere with mentions of places like Four Day Ray Brewing and Choi's Grill.
I love it.
It's a little bit more casual, a little bit more community focused.
Yeah, it's not as buttoned up as Carmel.
Exactly.
It's a little bit more relaxed.
Yeah, and the fact that there is $220 million in private investment in 2024.
Wow.
Along the I-69 corridor.
So people are putting their money where their mouth is.
They are. They see the potential.
They see the potential.
In Fishers.
All right, so what are the pros for businesses in Fishers?
Okay, so the first pro she mentions is treasure for less.
Yes, music to my ears.
I know, especially if we're talking about Carmel prices.
Yeah, those Carmel prices are scary.
They are. So the average office rent in Fishers was significantly lower than in Carmel.
Okay.
Coming in at around $22.40 per square foot in late 2024.
Okay.
And that is a substantial 25% less than Carmel.
That's a lot of savings.
It is a lot of savings.
Especially if you're a startup or a business on a tight budget.
Right.
That could be the difference between making it and not making it.
Absolutely. And she even provides a cost example.
Yeah, she loves those.
She does.
Yeah.
She does for a 2,000 square foot space, which would cost around $44,800 a year in rent, plus an estimated $1,800 for utilities and $900 for maintenance.
Wow.
So you're looking at a significant annual savings compared to Carmel.
Yeah, that could be huge.
It could be huge for your bottom line.
Absolutely.
And then she talks about Fishers as a tech volcano.
Oh, yeah.
Which, you know, really reinforces that image of rapid growth and innovation.
Yeah, it's like this hotbed of activity.
Yes, and she mentions they've added 1,400 tech jobs since 2022.
Wow.
According to Fishers EDC.
So the jobs are there?
The jobs are there, and successful companies like Lessonly.
Yeah.
Which was acquired for $150 million.
So there's money to be made.
There's money to be made.
In Fishers.
And then she mentions that Fishers was named a top 10 Midwest tech hub by TechPoint.
Nice.
Citing an 18% annual growth in STEM fields.
So it's not just a fluke.
It's not a fluke. This is a trend.
This is a trend.
That's here to stay.
Yeah, Fishers is on the map.
Fishers is on the map for tech.
For sure.
And that kind of tech focus often attracts a younger demographic.
Makes sense.
Which leads to the next pro, youth surge.
Ah, yes.
So she points out the lower median age of 35.8.
Okay.
According to 2024 census data.
So younger than Carmel.
Much younger than Carmel.
Okay.
And 41% of residents are under 40.
Wow, so very young population.
Very young population.
Right.
And the fact that they have things like the Nickel Plate Trail Mothership Coffee.
Yeah, they're catering to that demographic.
They are. And an A-rated school system.
So good for families.
Good for families if you want to attract young talent.
Absolutely.
You know, families, young professionals, this is the place to be.
It seems like it.
And it seems like this growth is set to continue with this growth wave that Conde mentions.
Tell me about the growth wave.
So Fisher's district development is promising 100,000 square feet of new office space.
Nice.
By mid-2026.
Okay, so more space is coming online?
More space is coming online.
Good.
And then the commute time to downtown Indianapolis is a very reasonable 25 minutes.
Okay, not bad.
Via I-69.
Yeah.
And they see about 60,000 vehicles on that corridor daily.
So people are going back and forth.
They are.
Between downtown and Fisher's.
Okay, so Fisher's, lots of pros.
Lots of pros.
But we know there are always cons.
There's got to be some downsides.
What are some of the cons to being in this electric frontier of tomorrow?
Okay, so the first one she mentions is transit ghost.
Ooh.
Which makes sense given its more suburban nature.
Yeah.
It's not as dense as downtown.
Right.
So public transportation isn't as robust.
Right. He mentions low public transit usage, only 7.2%.
Okay.
According to Indigo's 2024 data.
Wow, so most people are driving.
Most people are driving. 85% of residents commute by car.
Okay.
Based on 2024 census data.
So you need a car in Fisher's.
Pretty much.
Okay.
And while parking might be cheaper than in Carmel, around $30 a month at the Nickel Plate Garage.
That's better than $80?
It is better than $80.
In Carmel.
Yes. But if you don't have a car, those limited public transportation options could be a challenge.
Yeah.
Like the hourly Fisher's Connector bus.
That's not very frequent.
Not very frequent.
So if you miss it, you're waiting a while.
You're waiting a while.
Okay.
And then another con she mentions is raw and unpolished.
So it's still a work in progress.
It is a work in progress. There's a lot of development happening, but it's not all done yet.
Okay.
And there are ongoing construction projects like Hub and Spoke,
right,
which is a 120,000 square foot development slated for completion in 2027.
Okay.
And then there's also potential traffic delays.
Ah.
Like she mentions 15-minute delays on 116th Street, according to Waze in 2024.
So there are growing pains.
There are growing pains. And while the overall vacancy rate is a modest 6.1%,
okay,
according to JLL in 2024.
So not as competitive as Carmel.
Not as competitive as Carmel, but the prime spots, those are still getting snatched up quickly. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Like Fisher's Tech Park was fully leased by Q3 2024.
So if you want to be in the hot new area,
yeah,
you got to move fast.
You got to move fast.
Okay.
And then finally, she notes an amenity lag compared to Carmel.
Okay.
So while Fisher's has its own local charm,
yeah,
and places like Sun King Brewery,
yeah,
it doesn't yet have the same kind of breadth and depth of those established upscale options that you find in Carmel.
Okay, so maybe not as many fancy restaurants?
Maybe not as many fancy restaurants.
Or high-end shops.
Exactly.
Okay.
So who does Cara Conde see as being the best fit for Fisher's?
Yeah, so she really highlights startups.
Okay.
SaaS companies, so software as a service businesses.
Okay.
And companies in logistics or biotech.
Okay.
So really aligning with that tech-focused, growth-oriented identity of Fisher's.
Yes.
That makes sense.
And again, she kind of showcases her own successes in Fisher's.
Yeah, she likes to do that.
She does. She mentions securing flex space for Indy Robotics Co.
Okay.
At $20.80 per square foot. Okay.
Which is 12% below the market rate.
Wow.
And that led to an annual savings of $18,000 in logistics costs.
Nice.
For her client.
So she's not just finding space, she's finding the right space
exactly.
that optimizes their operations.
Exactly.
That's impressive.
And then her track record at Fisher's Tech Park, where 35% of the 2024 leases were pre-market deals that she brokered.
Wow.
Speaks to her network.
Yeah, she's got connections.
She's got connections.
In Fisher's.
And then she also mentions getting a 2,200 square foot space in the Nickel Plate district.
Okay.
For tech trends at $19.50 per square foot.
Okay.
With free parking.
Nice.
Which is a big plus.
It is.
In a car-dependent area.
Yeah, you need that free parking.
And then, like Carmel Fisher's has its own hidden gem.
Oh, I love these. Tell me about it.
So this is the yard at Fisher's District.
Okay.
And these are smaller micro offices
Okay.
offering 400 square foot suites.
Okay.
Tiny.
Mini little spaces.
Little spaces at $23 per square foot.
And they have shared amenities.
So kind of like a co-working space?
Yeah, like a co-working space.
But with your own little private office.
Exactly.
Okay.
Which, could be a great entry point for smaller or newer businesses.
Makes sense.
And again, Cara has already booked 3 units there.
So she sees the potential.
She sees the potential.
Okay.
Okay, so we've covered Carmel. We've covered Fishers.
2 very different vibes.
Very different vibes.
Yeah.
Now, let's head to the heart of the city.
The big one.
The big one, downtown Indianapolis.
The pulsating core of power.
I love it.
It's a great phrase.
So good, so good.
So what does Conde have to say about downtown?
Okay, so she really emphasizes the energy and centrality of downtown.
Yeah.
Talking about that daily influx of workers, around 74,000.
Wow.
According to Downtown Indy Inc. Q4 2024 data.
So a lot of people coming into downtown every day.
A lot of people coming in every day to work. And she mentions key landmarks like Salesforce Tower and Fountain Square.
So really painting that picture.
Of the heart of the city.
The heart of the city.
The business hub, the cultural hub.
Exactly. And there's a lot of investment happening downtown.
Oh, yeah.
She mentions over $1.1 billion in construction investment in 2024.
Wow.
Alone.
So they're not resting on their laurels.
They are not.
They're continuing to invest in downtown.
They are. And she points to big projects like the Signia Hilton Hotel.
Okay.
And the ongoing development of the Bottleworks district.
Yeah, Bottleworks is cool.
Bottleworks is very cool.
So it's a mix of like the old and the new in downtown.
Exactly. So downtown is not standing still.
No, it's evolving.
And it is evolving.
Okay, so what are the pros for businesses?
Okay, so the first pro she mentions is connectivity king.
Okay, that makes sense.
Which, make perfect sense given its central location.
Yeah, it's downtown.
It's downtown.
Everything converges there.
Everything converges there.
The roads, the buses.
Yeah, she mentions the intersection of I-70 and I-65. Yeah, 2 major interstates.
2 major interstates, which see a combined daily vehicle count of 120,000.
Wow.
And then the Red Line Bus Rapid Transit System.
Okay.
With 87,000 monthly riders.
So some people are taking public transit.
Some people are taking public transit.
Okay.
And then the close proximity to the airport, just 22 minutes away.
That's convenient.
Very convenient.
Especially if you travel a lot.
Exactly. And then she talks about the Space Symphony.
Oh, I like that.
I do too.
What is the Space Symphony?
So this is all about the sheer variety of office space available downtown.
Okay.
Like she gives examples ranging from historic loft spaces in Lockerbie Square.
Oh, cool.
Like a 1,500 square foot unit at $27 per square foot, according to CBRE in 2024, to modern high-rises like One America Tower, offering 625,000 square feet.
Wow.
At $31 per square foot, according to JLL in 2024.
Good.
And then everything in between, from small studios in the Stutz building to penthouse suites in Circle Tower.
Nice. So there's something for everyone.
It sounds like it, yeah. Whatever your style, whatever your budget.
Exactly.
Yeah, I can probably find it downtown.
You can probably find it downtown.
I like that.
And then she talks about power plays, highlighting the high concentration of top Indianapolis firms that are headquartered downtown.
Yeah.
92% of the top 50, according to the Indy Chamber in 2024.
Wow. So most of the big players are downtown?
Most of the big players are downtown.
Okay.
And she mentions, iconic places like St. Elmo's Steakhouse, Gainbridge Fieldhouse.
Yeah.
So it's not just business, it's also entertainment.
It's the whole package.
It is the whole package.
Okay.
And then having those major companies like Eli Lilly, Anthem, Cummins.
Yeah, household names.
Household names headquartered downtown.
Yeah.
Creates this powerful business ecosystem.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lots.